Hey, this is gold medalist Kristi Yamaguchi, and you're listening to Gym on Base.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gym on Base Show. For today's very special guest, we have on an Olympic gold medalist. She's also in the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame. On top of that, she's a New York Times best-selling author, as well as the 2008 Dancing with the Stars champion. And that's just some of her resume. Please welcome the great Kristi Yamaguchi. Kristi, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Ryan, for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And I think I see a little bit of a tan. Were you just in Hawaii or?
Oh, yeah. No, I wish I was just in Hawaii, but very little time for recreation. I guess we're busy there because it was a work trip. So yeah, not any beach time actually this trip.
Well, I know you're pretty busy, right? So you also just had your annual gala, Always Dream event in San Francisco, and you raised a lot of money, right?
Yes, we actually had one of our most successful galas to date. We raised approximately 470,000, which
Wow.
is huge. And got to thank all of the big sponsors and donors who came on board to make that happen. But yes, so it was for Always Dream, my nonprofit that works in early childhood literacy. And it was, I mean, we're in our like 27th year now
Wow.
of existence. So yeah, so it's been a great run.
Yeah, and I know you support a lot of kids and families to support a lot of different things, and some of it's like reading literacy, right, and providing clothes for school. So that benefits kids in the Bay Area and also Hawaii, right?
Yeah, so our program right now is Always Reading. So that's our primary program, and it's all about early literacy.
Mm.
So providing resources, so basically books via a tablet and access to over 40,000 choices of books online. And 4 and 5 year olds, so we're in pre-K, TK, and kindergarten
Mm.
classrooms, but in communities that are underserved, and making sure they have the resources. And it's paired with a book coach, which is a family engagement tool
Hmm.
that we use. And they're really working with the families for support, strategies on reading, but then and accountability. Sometimes it's all about having someone there saying, hey, did you do your 10 minutes of reading or 15 minutes of reading today with your child? Or hey, there's some new books in your library, go check them out and maybe pick one out to read to your student today. And so it's all about helping the families
Mm.
and the caregivers at home really embrace that, you know teacher and educate being involved with their child's education.
And I know you can donate, right, to get involved. So I'll put a link in the bio and also share it on social media. Is there the website? Is that the main way to donate?
Yes, probably the website, alwaysdream.org is the website. And of course, the link is very visible on every page. But, there's also information more about our program, what our mission is, who we're serving, the schools that we're in. And so, yeah, there's lots of info, kind of what our happenings are. We, like you just said, just had our annual gala, but we always have other fun events or things happening throughout the year. So, good place to look to keep in touch with what's going on.
Yeah, and I know it used to be called the Always Dream Foundation, right? And you recently got away from that. So what's the difference between a foundation and what you're doing now?
So technically, we are a nonprofit, so we are 501(c)(3), and so we dropped foundation a couple of years ago because we're typically foundations are giving out grants, but we
Mm.
are actually a service provider. So because we are bringing our reading program into the schools, and providing that service and those resources. Um, so really, we're not a foundation. So we decided to drop that because we are looking and applying for grants to other foundations out there. So you typically don't give money between foundation to foundation. So
Mm.
that's why we're saying, well, actually, we are a nonprofit, and so here's what we do. And so it better, I think, represents what we are
Mm.
at Always Dream.
And I know it's a family affair, right? I've seen some photos and from the events. Your husband's there. I'm sure your kids have jumped in too. So, and your sister's on the board, right? So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, so actually, my sister Lori is our program director.
Oh, okay.
So she's been with the organization really since I don't know, about 2008 or nine. And yeah, my husband's on the board, and the kids are volunteer at a lot of our events. So yeah, it's my mom was one of the founding board members and
Mm.
one of the very first part-time, very small part-time employee. So, but now we've grown. Now we have an incredible executive director who is, we come up with this new strategic plan for the next 4 years,
Mm.
and it's really focused on growth and impact, and really making sure that our program can reach as many families as possible. Um, so yes, an incredible time of growth in the last few years, and looking ahead to the next four.
Well, that's great. And like I said, we'll put some links out there to get people involved. And if that doesn't make you busy enough, on top of being a mom and everything too, you're also on the Governor's Advisory Council for Physical Fitness and Mental Well-being. So, how does that opportunity come about, and what exactly is your role through that?
So it came about. It's actually an appointment from the governor, and so huge honor. And I think other governors in the past have had physical fitness council, all about that. But it's just, I think this one is really special because it is obviously also including mental well being.
Mm.
And we know that those two things, your physical activity, directly impacts your emotional and mental well being as well. They're so linked, and this council of advisors are really acknowledging that, focusing on that, and want to do and make a lot of change here in our state of California. And it's for all Californians. It's not just children,
Mm.
but all Californians, and really seeing how can we all be healthier, and just
Yeah.
um, I think coming out of COVID, there's just a lot of things to address, and we're trying to tackle it from every direction.
Yeah. Well, imagine too having that position. You got to be a little self-conscious now if you want to sneak a ho-ho in or bowl of
Yeah.
ice cream, right?
Well, my philosophy has always been everything in moderation. So it's kind of hard to completely cut out some of those, small joys in life, like a cookie or a chip every now and then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's your fitness routine like these days? How are the knees? How are the shoulders? Is everything still going good?
Whew. Well, kind of crossing that threshold
Mm.
into you know later years in life, and being an athlete for most of my youth, it's I'm definitely
Yeah.
feeling it. There's arthritic joints already popping in, but I know that if I stay more active, I'm not training to be an Olympian anymore,
Hmm.
definitely leaving that behind, but trying to still keep active. I mean, I have a dog, so I try to get out and walk him several times a week. And we live in a hilly neighborhood, so it's a good power walk situation. I actually picked up a new activity during the pandemic, and it's kung fu.
Oh, wow.
And so getting involved with martial arts, I think, really um, made me realize how much I need to continue to work my brain as well. It's not just, it is mind, body, spirit in Kung Fu. And it's really been great. I think just learning something constantly and connecting that, with what the body is doing um, has been a great challenge, I guess you could say.
I'll stay on your good side then. I don't want you to get any kung fu moves
Yeah.
in there.
Well, I'm still kind of low ranking, but
Okay.
I'm working my way
Yeah.
up, working.
Well, that's great. And you mentioned your dog, Tank, right? So he's made some appearances in the Instagram world, I saw.
Oh, yes. Yes, he is the furry son of the family because we have two daughters. So, he came in and that was the stipulation. It's got to be a boy dog. Okay. Well, we got lucky with him. He's a Jack Russell Chihuahua mix.
Mm.
We think because he's a rescue. But he's kind of ruling the household now, as most of you pet owners know how it happens pretty easily.
Yeah, I grew up with two Jack Russell Chihuahuas, and they think they're
Oh,
about 300 pounds and 6 feet tall, but yeah,
yes. Yes, which is not bad, because,
yeah,
when people come to the door, they kind of think twice, but oh, what is that sound echoing in the hallway?
yeah,
Yeah, luckily we have an echo, so it makes
mm,
him sound much bigger than he actually is.
yeah, they greet the Amazon guys, right?
Yeah.
Well, another thing you have coming up, and you've done it for a while every winter, right? You have at the city center in San Ramon, you have your own ice skating rink, right?
Yes, so we have an incredible partnership with Sunset Development, which is city center in San Ramon, and um, yeah, it's been fun to kind of be involved with that rink and encouraging families and people to get out onto the ice. And it's just a great family friendly activity, especially during the holidays when people are out shopping or looking for things to do. And it's really nice. A portion of the ticket sales benefit Always Dream,
Mm.
so they're very committed to giving back into the community. And it's just an incredible space. I love going out there, so it just was very exciting to be able to partner with them on the skating rink. So, and once in a while we'll go out there as a family or with friends and just enjoy skating under the stars. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was wondering, could we start a rumor? Are you going to go out and do some Olympic performances on the ice for people, or?
I would not, far from Olympic performance, maybe just like, and senior skater, just moseying around, my feet not leaving the ice anymore. But yeah, like I'll be out there. I mean, I'm for sure we have the grand opening that always happens. I think
Mm.
it's like November 10th this year. And once that's open, who knows? Oh, there you see Tank. He's
Oh, there
making
he
an
is.
appearance.
Yeah, I see the
His little tail.
yeah, the tail's wagging, so that's good.
So, yeah. Uh,
Another thing I thought was pretty cool that you did recently was unscripted, right? And you were the
uh,
host with some 49ers greats like Steve Young, Ronnie Lott, Dwight Hicks, Brent Jones, Harrison Barton. So, are you a big Niner fan or?
oh, huge Niner fan. And
Ah,
especially, that generation, the 80s, 90s was, our family had season tickets at Candlestick Park
oh
during those
wow.
years until they moved to Levi's. So, yeah, huge Niners fans. And I actually, Ronnie Lott has been a mentor of
Mm,
mine since the 90s, and his actually was the one who really encouraged me to start Always Dream
mm,
and to really do something here in the Bay Area. So, yeah, I just have an immense amount of respect for all of those guys. And it was just such an incredible treat to moderate this conversation between the five of them. I really just kind of sat back and, maybe a couple times brought up, like, hey, what do you guys, what happened during this or whatever. And they just went off on their storytelling and seeing the inside look at their relationships with one another. And with Bill Walsh, which was the head of the dynasty,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
That 80s 90s team, and some George Seifert stories as well. So yeah, I mean, if you're a football fan or particularly a Niners fan, it was really a priceless night to hear all the things they talked about and how they were joking around with each other. Like, oh, remember that time? Steve Young and Brent Jones were roommates. So hearing some of their stories and the banter back and forth was pretty funny.
It is pretty cool. You're getting all the nugget stories out.
Yes, yes. Some good inside stuff.
So it sounds like you enjoy being a host. I know you've done, special correspondent type work for the Today Show and you're an analyst in the Olympics. So it sounds like you enjoy being behind the mic a little bit.
I mean, it's taken a long time to be comfortable with that. I
Mm.
mean, you're so natural and like, back in the day, that would be the last thing I would want to do is like put a microphone in front. I'd much rather skate
Mm.
or dance or do something else physical other than speaking. Um, but I think you know challenging yourself is always
Mm.
something that is good, and facing some of your fears every now and then. And I've had an incredible executive coach that I've worked with that's really made me a lot more
Mm.
comfortable in situations like that. So yeah, I mean, emceeing and moderating, it's you really think, and this is exactly probably what you do as well. It's like, what do you want to give your audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want them to feel or hear or see? What experience do you want them to have? And when I really focus on that versus like, oh, how uncomfortable I am, or
Mm.
what am I going to say, then it does seem to be more enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, like I say, it's one big wing job, just smile and have a good time.
There you go, right? I mean, there's a lot of heaviness in the world these
Mm.
days, but if we can bring a little bit of fun and insight, why
Yeah.
not?
Well, speaking of fun, I was curious, what's your relationship like with Steph and Aisha Curry? Because I know you've done some events with them in the past, and for I think the Eat, Learn, Play cause, right?
Yeah, so Steph's organization is called Eat, Learn, Play, and they're really focused on Oakland and really, providing that community with some incredible resources. And our Always Reading program actually has several schools in Oakland as
Mm.
well. So there's some crossover there for our two organizations. But yeah, we were lucky to kind of be a part of their holiday
Mm.
celebration last year, and they just do some incredible work with their families, and gifting and experiences. And they had a bookmobile there, handing out books to kids, so we got to take part in that because it kind of relates to obviously our work of
Yeah.
early literacy. So the amazing people, I think, as a being Bay Area residents, and I just feel we're so lucky that our kids and our community have Steph Curry and Aisha as role models in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, just the success and the game changer that he is, and he being such a positive person in the community. I think we're just so fortunate. And I kind of liken it to like, oh, people who lived in Chicago during the Chicago Bulls area with Michael Jordan, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we're living it right now with Steph Curry. And um, I just can't say enough of like what a incredible role model he is.
Yeah. Like you said, he is a Bay Area icon. And speaking of icons in the Bay Area, you are as well. So I think it's cool that you and I were both born in Hayward, in the haystack.
Yes. Wait, were you born at Mount Rose
Oh, St.
Hospital
Rose. No,
or St. Rose?
yeah, I was going to ask you. No, I was born at Kaiser. So I was hoping we
Okay,
were
so
both
okay.
Kaiser babies, but
Oh yeah, I was St. Rose.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, back in the day. So yeah, born in Hayward, raised in Fremont, now
Yep.
living in the East Bay still.
Yeah, I grew up in the exotic city of Tracy, but I spent about a year in Fremont about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, it used to be a small little sleepy town, and it's
Hmm.
like so big now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, your parents, I was curious about. Your dad was a dentist, right? So you kind of you were flossing right from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he would always be on me for flossing and his hygienist. Yeah, I think that was the funny thing during the Olympics. I was always introduced as like the daughter of a dentist from Fremont. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, he actually just recently retired.
Mm,
So uh, he had a very long career as a
yeah.
dentist.
Well, I was curious. I saw some older photos of you, and you looks like you had a little bit of like a tooth bling going on. Uh,
Oh,
I was
okay.
cu-
I still have it. I
okay.
don't
Yeah.
know if
What
you can see
exactly
it.
is that? Oh, yeah, there it is. I was wondering, does Dad approve of that, or is that?
So he actually put that on,
Ah,
probably a little bit reluctantly. So it was actually started out as part of a costume for
mm,
me. My good friend was having a 80s kind of 80s music themed birthday party. So I was like, oh yeah, let's get a temporary grill or something. Back in the 80s or 90s, I had the permed hair, right, the mall hair,
mhm.
and so and then I was obviously instead of a grill, I found these little tooth gems. I'm like, ooh, well, I can do that, and it's like I'll just leave it on. It's kind of a fun little thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I convinced my dad to put it on and it hasn't fallen off yet. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
cool.
my kids are mortified. When they saw it, they were scared. They're like, "What is that? That's scary." I'm like, "Why is it scary? It's just like a little gem. It's like wearing an earring, but it's on
Yeah,
my tooth." They're like, "Oh, brother." They're like, "Mom, you're weird." I'm like, "It's
yeah.
okay."
You're not allowed to be cool as a mom, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, yeah, you can try as much as you want, but no, there's just no way.
Well, you mentioned your two daughters, and how old are they? Is one? I thought I saw one was maybe a senior recently, or.
Yeah, so our younger one's a senior in high school, and our older daughter is in her sophomore year away at
Mm.
college. So hard to believe how fast it happens. Yeah, it's just yeah, they're like grown young
Mm.
ladies now, which is yeah.
What are they up to in life then? Any career goals, or did they kind of? Because obviously your husband's was a hockey player, so did they stay away from the sports a little bit, or how'd they handle
Yeah,
that?
they really both have forged their own paths so
Mm.
far. I mean, our younger one skated for about 10 years, but it was more for fun and
Mm.
for good activity. It kept her busy. She competed, but not at the high level, and decided to move on, which was like totally fine. So they're both actually somewhat looking in the entertainment
Hmm.
side of things. The older one is in theater, so she's in studying theater at school, major, and wants to do something film, television, theater.
Nice.
And then the younger one is applying to schools, and some of the schools she is applying to film production.
Hmm.
So she's interested in being on the other side of things and editing, cinematography, stuff like that. So both very creative brains. Yeah.
That's pretty neat. It keeps the entertainment thing kind of going.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean, they're definitely pretty more creative than I am for sure. But yeah, and the older one definitely likes performing. So
Mm.
yeah, I guess I'm not surprised about that.
Well, I thought it was interesting too. I had your neighbor on recently, and fellow '92 Olympian, the great Chris Mullins. So I imagine you guys
uh,
maybe know each other a little bit through the years, or.
yes, definitely. Yes, Molly. So um, and my brother knows him really well too, because my
Uh,
brother actually worked at the Golden State Warriors for like 20 plus years.
oh wow.
But yeah, being neighbors, and yeah, I actually got to see him play when the Dream Team was competing in Barcelona at the Olympics in '92, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, really good guy. He's does amazing stuff too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Small world. A lot of talent here in this little area, the Bay Area.
Yeah, we got some baseball players, some basketball, E40, right? It's
Yeah,
not.
I was gonna ask you about music because you got E40 in the neighborhood. So, what kind of music are you into?
I mean, nowadays I'm kind of into everything,
Mm.
just top 40 or pop, whatever's trending. I mean, growing up, I was definitely more R&B and like Janet Jackson,
Mm.
uh, Boys the Men, New Edition, all that stuff. And then like Journey, and that was kind of more recently. It was some of like the classic rock.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, so now it's just pretty much everything. Bruno Mars
Okay.
to Taylor Swift to it runs the gamut.
Yeah, are you in the family Swifties or?
So my girls definitely are for sure, and they kind of have, uh, brought me along, and I have immense amount of respect. And yeah, I could say I'm a Swiftie. Like I've been to a few of her concerts, and each time been blown away
Mm,
by her work ethic, what she presents out on stage and how hard she works. And uh, I hate to say talent because I think she really earns, what she's doing out there. She works for it.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I think she has a lot of respect for who her fan base is.
yeah.
She understands it and gets it, and she is just another great role model. I mean, because
Mm,
having two daughters, I don't mind them looking up to her because
mm,
she's classy, still sexy, but classy in a
mhm.
way that maybe some other artists aren't.
Yeah.
you know?
No, it makes sense, and makes me wonder too. When you were at the height of things and everything's going up, did you meet any of your favorite artists, or maybe people that you skate along to their music? Did you get to have cool interactions like that?
Yeah, so I mean there are some really fun collaborations that, looking back now, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I got to do that. But like I skated to Trisha Yearwood's
Mm,
singing live, which I mean, when you hear her
wow.
voice, it was just, you kind of want to just stop and listen. One of my favorite routines that I toured with Stars on Ice with Bridge
Mm,
Over Troubled Waters by Simon and Garfunkel. And I did get to skate live
wow.
to Art Garfunkel in a TV special. I got to skate to Seal live when Kiss to a Rose, which was again one of those pinch me moments. It was, so yeah, I think I've had some really fortunate performances that with some live artists.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It makes me wonder too, before you get to like the Olympic stage or when you're skating professionally after, how many times do you think you're practicing these performances before you do them for the actual, moment?
Like for professional shows or like competition
Competition.
or
Like,
competition. Oh, hundreds,
wow.
definitely, easily hundreds. I mean, you're training them every day. And when you're competing, really, you only have two routines as a single skater to focus on your short program and long program. So you're doing both of those daily. And, if you're training like with my coach, she would have us do back to back run throughs sometimes
Mm,
of the routines. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's like second nature. So you want to be able to go out there and compete and almost turn your brain off
mm.
so that the nerves, so you can just get into letting your body do what it's trained to do. Um, yeah, yeah, it's automatic pilot.
And it makes you wonder too, when you're going backwards and you're spinning around and everything, are you looking at certain areas of the rink to kind of know where you're at? Because it looks like if you have just a 1 second of lapse, you might kind of lose where you're at.
Yeah, no, actually, good question because we are out on the ice, right? It's just like this big, giant rink, 200 by 100 feet. And, but it's choreographed really specific to the side that the judges are sitting on.
Mm.
Um, so you'll see skaters kind of favor, like, their expressions or whatever to the judges. But yeah, you do like, because when you're spinning really fast, a lot of times you'll have to, like, when you come out of the spin, you kind of see where you are and spot on something to one,
Mm.
get undizzy as fast as you can so you can go on to the next move. But yeah, make sure you're coming out and skating in the right direction from there. And a lot of times it helps if you have some practice time in that particular ice surface, because there might be marks on the ice that you do
Mm.
use as reference points, and then definitely um, reference points in the actual rink as well, whether it's like, oh, that pillar over there, or like when I come out, there's the opening of the door over there. So yeah, so hopefully, because yeah, you are moving fast, and literally every beat of the music or whatnot is you almost know what foot you're going
Mm,
on that particular beat every time. So
like
that's
synchronized.
how, yeah, yeah.
Wow. And you do get dizzy? Because I was wondering, is that something you just get used to the more you do it, or are you kind of fighting it the whole
Yeah,
time?
totally. Yeah, people are
Okay.
like, oh, don't you get dizzy? It's like, yeah, we do. And that's why you don't see, like, when people spin really fast, they're not going to do a jump right away. They're going to kind of skate around and like take a few breaths, get their eyes unmangled, whatever, and then on with the rest of the jumps. So yeah, you do. I think you just learn how to recover, I guess, quicker than the average person. But right now, like, from not skating, it recently, it's if I spin at all, I feel it. It's just like,
Mm.
whoa, I can't do this anymore. Yeah.
Well, it makes me wonder that whole Olympic experience. That's where you met your husband, right, Brett Hedican, and you're kind of bonded by ice because he's a hockey player, you're a skater, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah, we were at the same Olympics in '92, Albertville, France, and initially met there. So yeah, I think, having similar, not childhoods, but that experience of the athletes, the singular focus and the lifestyle, right, of a
Mhm.
professional athlete, being on the road a lot, and um, having the focus in season on specific goals right away. Yeah, I think all of that, having that in common, was definitely something that helped our relationship.
Yeah. Well, I noticed you guys dated for like 8 years. So was it because he's busy playing and you were busy touring around as well?
Ooh, I don't think it was 8 years.
Oh, okay.
It was probably like 5 years, 5, 6 years. Yeah. Um, well, we had a long engagement, so we probably dated for like 3.5 years. Then we had this like almost 2 year engagement, and then we got married. So yeah, it was waiting for the right season, right? It was,
Yeah.
you know, with two winter athletes, it was like, okay, we have 2 months out of the year where a wedding can possibly take place. So yeah, scheduling was kind of a tough one.
Well, it makes you wonder too, do you guys have like dual memorabilia rooms or how do you display everything?
Well, yeah, no, not, we're pretty down to earth, but we do have like a movie room
Oh,
that
okay.
has some shelving in it. So we're like, okay, well, let's put, a couple of our little things here. So he did win the Stanley Cup with his team, the Carolina Hurricanes, in 2006. So he has like a little mini replica of the Stanley Cup. Obviously it's incredible, very cool thing. So he had to make sure, okay, well, Stanley Cup is going to have this shelf, and then you can put your Dancing with Stars trophy underneath it. So I was like, totally fair. I have no problem with that. The Stanley Cup does deserve to be above the Mirrorball trophy.
Well, I am curious about the Stanley Cup because when the team wins, each player gets it for a certain amount of time, right? So that must have been
Yeah,
kind of fun for the family.
that was very cool. Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, so he really planned out an incredible. He didn't even have it for 24 hours. You're supposed to, but he had it for maybe 18.
Oh,
So
okay.
literally from the time it landed in his hometown, he took it to his parents' house where his family was. Got to spend some time to his high school, and where the next generation of young hockey players got to parade it in to the high school gym. His jersey was retired there. And then it traveled to St. Cloud State University, where he went to
Mm.
school, played hockey there, and had it on display for a few hours with the school and whoever wanted to come and see it. So it was, yeah, really, really, really special day. And um, yeah, I mean, just a cool tradition, right? Not
Yeah.
It's really the only trophy that gets this kind of a tour through
Yeah.
through all over the world. It goes,
Yeah.
post Stanley Cup finals, right?
Hmm. Yeah. If the trophy could talk, all the households and, people it's been
Yes.
through the years, it's pretty crazy.
Yes. Yeah. You got to get to know the cup keeper. So they have,
Ah.
couple cup keepers that travel with the cup, and
Huh.
literally they are the keeper of the cup. Like, they when you go to touch it, they're like, put the gloves on. And you're like, oh, okay. Or like, they're shining it up for literally the cup keepers. So, you befriend them and you do hear some really amazing stories of, whoa, I can't believe that happened to the cup.
Yeah. You have to sign a non-disclosure after.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it's interesting. I've had Summer Sanders on, Brandy Chastain, and I always like to know what do they do with their medals. So I'm curious, where do you keep yours? Because I think Summer Sanders said hers is like in her sock drawer. So is yours in a more elaborate place, or?
Well, probably because Summer has like 10.
Oh
So
yeah.
uh no. So I only have one Olympic, and it's actually on display at or on loan to the US Figure Skating Museum,
Okay.
and that's in Colorado Springs. So, it was probably in a sock drawer or maybe my parents' sock drawer before it was given to the or on loan to the museum there. And this way, anyone who wants to go see it can go see it. It's on display with my black and gold costume that I wore at the Olympics, and I think a pair of skates.
Mm.
And it's alongside, memorabilia from a lot of my idols, like Brian Boitano's medal and Dorothy Hamill's dress, Sonia Henny's costumes and skates, Debbie Thomas. So it's just so much figure skating history is there, and so it's nice to be able to share it with the public and whoever wants to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And you mentioned a few minutes ago about your Dancing with the Stars trophy, and it made me wonder. Dancing is it kind of similar the flow to skating? Like you're going to music. Sometimes you have a partner. Just the flow, is it similar?
So I would say maybe from the waist up, because you have the arm movements, what the performance, what and whatnot, but literally everything the waist down was so completely different. On the
Mm.
ice, we're gliding and it's smooth, and there's a lot of knee bend and different posture. Whereas on dancing, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to move my feet so fast because they have
Mm.
to be stepping on count, and you know different in different positions, whether your toe hits first or your heel hits first. It depends on the style of dance you're doing. So um that was just like huge learning curve, like, oh wow, there are so many technical things that differentiate each dance, whether it's a foxtrot or a cha-cha or a jive or a waltz. There's so many rules to each one, which was interesting and challenging in its own way, but it was so much fun. I had just an incredible professional partner, Mark Ballas, and like he's won I think 4 trophies now. Um, Officially retired from Dancing with the Stars, but just the talent and the imagination, the creativity was so fascinating to watch and to even be a part of. So yeah, it was just that was like an experience of a lifetime for sure.
Well, do you come back from that and teach your husband some moves, or is he a good dancer?
Yeah, he was like watching pretty intently and trying to pick up the moves, and he was like, "Oh, here's the hand." I'm like, "Actually, that's the hand the girl does. Don't do that one. Like, do the more masculine version of." But yeah, no, he in Brett, he's Minnesota boy, but he can dance. He's got the moves too. So,
Okay.
uh,
Well, I'm curious when you're watching the Olympics now and you see someone win a gold medal or have a big moment. What do you remember about when you won the gold medal? Like, how much did your life change like immediately? Did things kind of just go into hyper gear with endorsements and stuff like that?
went into hyper gear for sure. I mean, really, for a lot of the athletes, the only exposure worldwide they get is on the Olympic
Mm.
stage. So it's maybe the first time that they're exposed to that and their name is exposed to that. So yeah, I think after the Olympics, this is before social media
Mm.
and influencers and whatnot. So it was like, pure media. I mean, I remember people here were saying, oh, yeah, the news came on the radio and they said, okay, if you don't want to know who won, turn your the volume down right now. But we're going to say who won the women's gold medal, you know, because you wouldn't know otherwise, right? There was no instant
Yeah.
information back then. But yeah, it was interesting to come back to the States after the Olympics. And I think it hit you like a wave, and you realize, wow, so many people watch the Olympics. And, uh, it's just incredible to feel the, the support that people were extending to you as an athlete. So it's pretty cool. It was overwhelming, and I think really scary and daunting in its own way. But um, I think it takes it probably took a few years till I was really
Mm.
semi comfortable with it all, because it is such a big change.
Well, do you have any of the cereal boxes or any magazine covers? Do you collect that stuff that you're on, or?
Oh. Yeah, they're recently like purged from my parents' garage, and they're like, "Okay, do you want this, or should we just throw it away?" And I'm like, "Well, we have to keep at least one cereal box and one,
Yeah.
doll or poster or whatever." Yeah, so yeah, you probably don't want to see my garage.
I'm surprised you got to do some cool cameos. I know you're in like Everybody Loves Raymond episode. Did you ever wish you got in Blades of Glory?
Oh, how funny. Yeah, Blades of Glory. I had, yeah, so many friends in that movie. From obviously Scott Hamilton was one of the
Yeah.
featured characters in that movie, and a lot of other skaters I grew up with and competed with. Pretty funny. I mean, to be in a Will Ferrell movie, like
Yeah.
how awesome is that? Although, yeah, I think I offended Scott because after I went inside in the theater, I called him. I'm like, okay, you owe me $8, because people out there back in the, I don't know when this took place, the movies were only $8 at the time. Um, it's like, yeah, that was terrible. No, I didn't say it was terrible, but I'm like, you owe me $8. I thought I was gonna laugh a lot more than I did. Kind of kidding in a
Yeah.
way, because it was really funny. And he was just like, what? Like, whatever. But yeah, that, yeah, that was interesting
Yeah.
movie.
Had some moments in there. But I was curious, you have your always dream, and you spoke about reading and whatnot. You've had some really successful books of your own. I was just curious, what made you get into wanting to write books? Was it maybe reading to your kids as they're growing up, or was it before that even started?
It was exactly that, for sure. Our pediatrician right away, our daughter was, I think, 4 or 5 months old. He's like, okay, make sure you read to her as much as you can. And we're like, what? Like, she can't even hold her head up. Like, he's like, no, like, start reading to her now, and just point out things on the pictures. You know, she needs to hear you talking to her and reading, saying words. And this is like eye opening. And I think that was probably the best advice that we were given as parents. Well, maybe not, but one of the best advice. And I think to this day, our daughters are avid readers, and they're incredible writers. And, um, that's what our program is all about, is like encouraging the families to start reading to the kids early on. And really, they are the ones who are able to shape their success, really,
Mm.
in their literacy skills. So yeah, I was inspired by reading to our kids, and I think most parents out there. Do you have kids at all?
No, no,
Not yet. There's all the classic books, right, that you get when
Dr.
they're
Seuss.
little, and one of them's called, you might, yeah, Dr. Seuss. You might remember or know of the book Good Night Moon.
Oh yeah, I had that one.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was definitely in the rotation, every day. Like, they point out the same mouse on every page every day. I almost didn't have to read it, could just recite it. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be another book out there. So they kind of inspired me. I'm like, well, maybe mom can write a book for you too. So inspired by them, but definitely a message I wanted to get out to other kids out there, just the positives of a message of so Dream Big Little Pigs was the first book, and it was all about trying different things and facing failure, but being persistent and persevering, and then going after your dreams. And so in your dream, everyone's dream looks different, right?
Mm.
So it's relative to what your goals are, but not being afraid to go after it. So that's, yeah, that was really the first book, and inspired by,
Mm.
yeah, my two daughters.
Yeah, it's some great stuff. We'll put some links for that. I know they're on Amazon online. People can pick those books up as well. And one question I really wanted to ask you, I was curious about when I was researching your family history. I know people have brought it up in the past, but your grandpa George fought in World War II, and I know he was in Germany and France. And I noticed how you won a gold world championship when you were skating. Did you think of any of that when you were there, or did it make an impression on you, or are you kind of just in the zone?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no. So yeah, my first world title was in Munich, Germany. Um, and yeah, so I didn't put it together then, but definitely knew that he was always kind of the first star of the family. There was an article about him in the New York Times paper about his service in Europe and
Mm.
receiving a battlefield commission and everything. So it was just like, oh, well, you weren't the first member of your family to be in the New York Times, and your grandfather actually was. So,
Wow.
you know, obviously, really, really proud of his service for our country, and especially really, really tough times, because um, he was actually in one of the only non-segregated units. He was the only Japanese American in his
Mm.
unit, and obviously, with what was going on at the time when his family was incarcerated, but yet he was fighting for this country in Europe. It was interesting times,
Yeah.
just hard to imagine how they were able to keep things in their mind, and have that level of loyalty, and to the country, which he had till he died, was just fierce
Yeah.
loyalty, and uh to this country.
Yeah. When I know were both of your parents spent time when they were really young in an internment camp, right?
Hmm.
Made me wonder, have you ever gotten in touch with George Takei? Because I know he put out like a musical Allegiance about that, and I was just curious if you guys ever
Yes,
connected or not.
yes, yeah, so many great stories. And I actually read George Takei's graphic novel,
Mm.
which was titled "They Call Us Enemy." I think that's what it's called. Or They Called Us Enemy, and it was all about his personal experience
Mm.
behind the barbed wire in internment camp. So so yeah, I've met him a couple times, but not in depth enough to talk about these experiences and stories. But um, I think more and more, especially unfortunately, still being relevant
Mm.
today,
Yeah.
to talk about our history and not letting certain parts that were maybe dark for the U.S. happen again.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll see.
Yeah. No, it's something that it's not really talked about as much as you would think. So, like you said, definitely deserves to be out there more, even if it's not a positive thing. Learning from the past. So,
Right. Yeah.
uh,
It's always learning from the past, and, hopefully things don't escalate, and
yeah.
wartime hysteria, right? It just brings up a lot of
Hmm.
stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I know Tank's in the room. He probably needs some attention. So, what else is on the agenda for today? What are you up to?
Let's see. Well, I already did the kung fu today.
Oh, nice.
Actually, for our families, part of our program, we do story times once a month.
Mm.
Um, and this month is a kickoff. And so tonight, I'm doing a story time for some of our school families, they'll log in. It'll be virtual, and I'll read Dream Big, Little Pig to the kids, and we encourage it to be like pajama time. People
Mhm.
show up in their pajamas and be comfy, and just yeah, enjoy being read to. So we,
Yeah.
it's a fun little thing we like to provide, and um, we usually have between 50 to 80 families that come
Wow.
online and listen. So yeah, I'll be doing that later tonight.
Awesome. Well, I want to let you recharge. All right, well, Chrissy, thanks for coming on. It was good to meet you. I'll make sure to say hi if I see you at Safeway or something.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm there all the time. So yeah, you'll
Okay.
probably see me.
And yeah, I'll see you around.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.